weren't the main characters of this story. And I'm upset about it. I am screaming, crying, giggling, kicking my feet, but also my heart hurts so much for everything that's going on. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori. If you're new, I'm so happy that you're here because we are doing, it's kind of an interesting mix between a weekend reading vlog and a 24-hour readathon. I just needed this weekend to be like a no bones weekend. We're going to be reading a bunch. I have a new like cozy hobby that I'm gonna try, and we're reading a bunch of new release fantasy romance, which, if you know me, that is my absolute favorite genre in the whole entire world, and these are some of my most anticipated releases of the whole entire stinking year. This is going to be like an interesting mix between weekend reading vlog and 24-hour readathon, because am I going to be reading a lot in the next two days, essentially, like 24 hours? 100% absolutely, but I'm also going to be like doing other things. But I did make a 24-hour readathon spread in my bullet journal, which you would have seen, and so we're just mixing and matching and making reading work for us, as we do. First up on the TBR for this weekend, I have Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I have been reading this for the last week. I'm a little over halfway at this point. I'm kind of right at the halfway mark. I'm loving it. I think it's really interesting. We'll go into like reading updates in a little bit, but Two Twisted Crowns. I have A Curse for True Love, which I've been waiting for. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to read this, but I'm also going to be devastated once this trilogy is over, because I need Stephanie Garber to announce like another project. She is one of my favorite authors of all time. She got me back into reading in 2020 when I read and devoured her Caraval series. So I'm so excited for this, but I realized the details of Ballad of Never After are a little bit fuzzy for me. I want to reread Ballad before I start A Curse for True Love. That is the plan, to finish these three, and then as I do with the 24-hour readathon, I do have an audiobook. It's the third book in the Song of the Marked series, the Shadows and Crowns series. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I do have that on audio because when I'm doing my cozy hobby, I figured I could listen to that audiobook and make some progress there as well. So as you can probably tell, all of these books are sequels, including the Song of the Marked book. My updates for these, absolutely no spoilers. They will be very general thoughts. Now let's talk about this cozy hobby that I've been hinting at. So I will try to pop up like a TikTok or a picture on screen, but I have been seeing, it's this yarn that is absolutely massive, and people make like very chunky knit blankets out of this yarn. It looks, first of all, so easy because you can just do it with your hands. I see people do these blankets. Obviously, they're probably more experienced than I'm gonna be because I've never done this before, but they can do blankets in like a matter of a couple hours. And I wanna make my nephew like a baby slash toddler blanket. He's a little over 1 year old. I hope that you're excited, friends. If you are, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let's get into it. We're back home. Glasses needed to come on because my contacts were being pains in the butt today, and where this is all about no bones, cozy, fun day, I was like, we're absolutely not dealing with annoying, uncomfy contacts. Came home, we went food shopping. I'm gonna make lunch in a little bit. I'm going to make, I think it's called a Greek village salad, and it just, it sounded like it would hit the spot. I have been all about soups lately. Like soups and salads have been, I don't know, my life. But it's like a little bit of romaine lettuce, a bunch of cherry tomatoes, a bunch of cucumbers, some Kalamata olives, feta, and then I have this infused olive oil that I'm gonna put on top of it. So we're gonna make that. I also got my big fluffy yarn to make my blanket. So I texted my sister-in-law and she wanted one that had like a mossy green to it. This has more of like the green. So it has like some greens and blues, and then the like base color is this like almost like a really light green. I don't know if it's gonna show up on camera, but it's gonna be so cute. I'm so excited to start this. But I kind of want to read physically before I start an audiobook and start to like work on that blanket. So I'm about to dig in to Two Twisted Crowns again, and I figured let me give a little bit of a reading update because like I said, I'm halfway through at this point. And very general because no spoilers. This, I have to say, the start of this book was not what I was expecting because we're getting more POVs in this book. So we're getting Elm, and I was not expecting his POV. But I love him. I really do love him. I think it's interesting that we're getting another or like a different romance in this book besides Elspeth and Raven, because like they're obviously in love with each other. The whole first book was like focused on them, and now like because of what's going on with them, that's like a whole separate plot line. And so throwing in another romance, at first I was kind of like, I want to get back to my baby Raven and Elspeth, because like I was so stressed about them that I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning I was like, I don't want Elm and I don't want Ione, but I do really love where their storyline is going. I think it's super interesting, and Ione was like a bigger part in the first book that I'm like, okay, I like that she's like having more of her moment and the balance between the two, because now it's like two different locations with our cast of characters, so it's like you're flipping back and forth and it helps to create more suspense. So let me set a page goal for this like reading session. I think that would be a good idea. Ooh, okay, I think I'm gonna try to sit down and read up to part 3 to Bend. Yeah, I think that'll be good because I'm currently on page 208, and so that would get me to page 317. One thing I will say, there are quite a few sibling dynamics in these books, and even though there are a couple characters who are like cousins of each other, they're so close that they act like siblings that if you love sibling dynamics, I think that you will really enjoy the characters in this book. But Raven and Jesper, his sister, and the way that they look out for each other, oh my gosh. One of the reasons I love Rachel Gillig's writing style is because the way that she crafted this world in nature, and all of her characters are named after trees, and like the magic has to do with the cursed forest, which I talked about a little bit. The way that she describes the settings and how it's like intertwined with what our current characters are doing. So for example, Elm right now needed to like escape Castle Stone. He took his horse and he's just like riding in the woods to escape everything that's troubling him at the moment. And she wrote, his shout eased into a boyish whoop, and he laughed and cursed and roared into the night, the world emptying of monsters. All that remained was him and the night and the forest road. It welcomed him, ribboning him in darkness, leading him to the ivy-laden house with darkened windows, its scent now as familiar to him as his own name. She does use scents as well, which I know some people think is like trite at this point, just like overused, but I don't. I love like scents defining certain things. The magic in this world, you know that magic is being used because it smells very almost like acrid, like salt in your nose. And I think that that's a really interesting like feeling, but then also scent. Like, she just appeals to your senses through her writing, and I think it's so beautiful. Okay, I just got to part 3, a little bit over. The next chapter was only like 2 pages, so I'm technically on chapter 40. Oh my gosh, like everything that is happening. It's starting to get more high stakes, which is nice. I felt like in the beginning of this book, it wasn't as high stakes as the first one was, and so it was moving a little bit slower, and I was like, do I like this as much as I liked the first one? I don't know. Now, like, I'm definitely getting more into it. Oh my gosh, I have like a little less than 300, a little less than 100 pages left, but I'm gonna take a little bit of a break to just like get up and move my body. Hi friends. Okay, it has been a little bit. I'm about to start reading again, and this is the last 100 pages of Two Twisted Crowns, so I will try to film while I'm reading to get reactions. I'm really excited. But yeah, I stopped reading because I just wanted to like do a workout and like move my body a little bit. So we worked out, we took JMO outside, he's eating his dinner right now, and then I also made, it has a weird name, but it's called Italian penicillin soup, and it's something that like my Nana and Papa used to make for me when I was little, and I hadn't had it in so long, but it's been popping up all over my TikTok lately because, if I haven't mentioned already, I am in my food talk era. Like, all it is recipes, and I'm living for it. I've also recently discovered the Barefoot Contessa, so I've been cooking her recipes. I ended up making the Italian penicillin soup, and it was so delicious. Like, I don't think I can emphasize that enough. It was so good because it's also like very nostalgic for me. And then next up on the list is The Ballad of Never After. I have finished Two Twisted Crowns. I have a lot of mixed feelings, and I feel like this is a personal problem. This book was not as good as the first book. It felt a little bit uncreative with the plot because I feel like the first book was so twisty and like kept us on our toes, whereas this one, the plot was so much more see-through, and I think it was intentionally done that way because it's supposed to be like a classic dark fairy tale, and it's supposed to be very much history repeats itself. I'm trying to keep this very vague because I don't want to spoil anything. But the thing that really doesn't sit right with me, and this is the personal problem, is that I loved Raven so much. So much. He is my baby boy. He is one of my top book boyfriends of the year. I love him. I love him in Elspeth. And this book, they were not the main characters. Elm and Ione were the main characters of this book. I wasn't ready for that. Not that I don't love Elm, because I do. His moments and his romance in this were stunning. When he says, "There you are," I was like, that's becoming one of my new favorite lines. Not gonna lie. I love to see it in fantasy books, and I love that it's like popping up more and more. And no spoils, but like the ending is very full circle, and I like that. I appreciated it. It gives you like the fuzzy feel good vibes. But the happily ever after for Raven and Elspeth, like, it was there, but like it also wasn't there because they weren't the main characters of this story. And I'm upset about it. It's not what I was expecting. I did still enjoy it, and that's really disappointing because One Dark Window was like such a top book of the year for me. But if I think about like this duology together, it lowers One Dark Window for me, if that makes sense. I still like it. I would still recommend this duology. I think it was very unique in the writing style and the atmosphere. I love a dark fairy tale moment. I actually think it's really funny because the last book that I finished before this one was The Forest Grimm. Yeah, The Forest Grimm by Catherine Purdy. And that also was giving dark, cursed, twisted, magical, sentient forest, just like Blunder does. And I was like, this is my vibe. I do be enjoying these. It's like a very low 4-star for me, where One Dark Window was a 5-star, but if I'm really, really honest with myself, this is probably like a 3.75. And that hurts my feelings. And I don't mean to be hurting your feelings. I'm hurting my own feelings. Anyways, we're gonna move on to more positive things now. So I'm going to start my reread of Ballad of Never After. I do wish that I had the audiobook for this because I'm a little bit nerve that I'm gonna read it more slowly than I think I'm going to read it. However, I have been using Bookly, which I've shown you like little clips of. I really like using Bookly when I'm reading physically because it will track how fast you're reading during each reading session, as long as you remember to stop your timer when you stop reading and put in your page numbers. But I really appreciate that because it tells you how much longer you have in your physical book. I feel like Bookly helps me read physical books faster because it tells me like, oh, at your current reading pace, you have this much longer left in the book. And I'm like, bet. We also just talk about the map that's in Ballad of Never After. Gorgeous, beautiful, stunning, amazing. Like, literally love it so much. Deep breaths. It has been a very productive morning and I've done a little bit of reading, but now that we've like cleaned the apartment a little bit, I did the dishes, I put away my Halloween mugs, which is so sad because I love them so much. But I always get like excited to use them every year because like I put them away and have like my seasonal mug rotation. So we did that and I'm starting to like clean up the apartment a little bit because I'm trying to figure out a good space to start my blanket making this afternoon. So we're gonna do that, but I want to try to get a little bit farther into Ballad of Never After. I'm currently on page 148. I read a little under 50 pages. I love being back with these characters. I love being back in this world. At first, when I was reading the first couple chapters, I was like, do I need to go back to Once Upon a Broken Heart? But thankfully, Stephanie Garber does put a lot of like recap in her books. So it recapped the main plot points and kind of the ending of Once Upon a Broken Heart. And then it starts to get into the journey and adventures of this book. And oh my gosh, I freaking love it so much. I love Jax. I just am obsessed with him. I decided to use this bookmark, even though it does have like a mermaid on the bottom, but it has like a blonde love interest. This is a fairy loot bookmark. I'm pretending it's a bookmark for Jax. According to Bookly, I only have 3 hours and 4 minutes left. So I would like to sit down right now and do like another hour and 30 minutes and see how far I can get in this one. But before I do that, let me give a little bit of an update on Call of the Void because that's what I have been listening to while I was walking with JMO and doing the dishes and putting away my mugs and all of that stuff. Last book left off on such a big cliffhanger, but thankfully we've gotten to like a better place with everything. We've seen like what happened because of that cliffhanger ending of the second book. I am in like my fantasy series era. I am just living my absolute best life, and I was a little bit worried it was gonna be a lot for my brain to be balancing the Shepherd King series, Once Upon a Broken Heart series, the Shadows and Crowns series, but because I'm like reading all of these books so close together and like recently, that's like the really stressful series, whereas this one feels like a walk through a fairy tale. And even though it is quite suspenseful, this book I at least know what happens. I feel like I'm gonna be an absolute stressy mess when it comes to A Curse for True Love because I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I don't know how that one ends. It's a good balance, at least right now. I want to finish this book before I just dive into Call of the Void with my blanket making. I know that once I start like making my blanket, I'm gonna get super into that audiobook, but I want to finish this so that we can absolutely 100% get to A Curse for True Love either like way later tonight or tomorrow morning, because I am gonna have this vlog go through Sunday as well. This writing is just so good. Please, can we all just appreciate this for 2 seconds? It's not spoilery. She used to think love was like a house. Once it was built, a person got to live in it forever, but now she wondered if love was more like a war with new foes constantly appearing and battles creeping up. Winning at love was less about succeeding in a battle and more about continuing to fight, to choose the person you loved as the one you were willing to die for over and over. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, I promise that I won't read y'all the whole entire book, but just the way that this castle is described, I love Stephanie Garber's writing style and the way that she describes things, and she uses so much like figurative language. It's just so beautiful. This place was old, the kind of old that changed the scent of the air. Evangeline was still sitting in the carriage, but as they neared the looming castle, she swore she could smell the dust of long ago battles and the smoke from the hearth fires that had burned centuries ago. Even the grainy flaxen light pouring from the countless windows looked like a remnant of the past. It's just so good. Okay, little check-in. I'm now on page 262, so I am way more than halfway through the book. Oh my gosh, I love these books so much. I promise I'll stop saying that. But I'm going to take a little bit of a break now. I'm going to make lunch. It is, oh my gosh, lunch. It's almost 4 o'clock. I didn't realize it was that late. I'm going to make a little bit of food. I'm going to go do a workout, and then when we come back, I'm going to try to finish this book. I have about an hour and 40 minutes left. I think this is the plan. Lunch, workout, shower, listen to Call of the Void. I'm going to set up on my bed because I think that's going to be the best like flat surface for some blanket making. Y'all, look how cutie this came out. So I forget if I mentioned this already, but this is for my nephew. It's just like a little baby blanket, so that's why it's kind of like a weird size, and it's so soft. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. The blanket is done. I was listening to the Call of the Void for the majority of that time, outside of just like watching TikTok videos on how to like start and finish the blanket. So I am now up to 34% chapter 12. I'm trying to figure out what I want to say about this book because obviously it's like the third book in a series. There was a really big lull in the plot and then it starts to pick back up, but I feel these books tend to have that. They tend to have peaks of like action and then it dies down and then peaks of action. So I think that's what we're getting back into the cadence of. But for the first portion of this book, one of my like favorite characters was separated from the group. Down period where not a lot was happening. I was like, I don't love this, but he's back now and we're very happy. Things are happening. The slower scenes, we're getting more like romance because like when he was off doing his own thing, there wasn't a lot of romance. But I am gonna stop here because all I could think about when I was making that blanket and listening to this book was how much I wish I had the audiobook for Ballad of Never After, because I'm at like my favorite part in this story and from here like things just keep getting better. And so I am going to return to reading Ballad. I'm going to finish it and then maybe take a little bit of a break from reading, and then we're gonna start Curse for True Love. First read of this, I gave it 5 stars. Second read of this, I'm also giving it 5 stars. It is currently almost 11 o'clock. I know I'm not like officially doing a 24-hour readathon, but like I mentioned, I do want to get at least like 75 pages into Curse for True Love because oh my god, this ending, I literally can't believe that I read that and didn't have the next book. Hi besties. Okay, lots of updates because I had sprints with Katie this morning. We did our Sunday morning sprints and I'm so happy that I'm like back in that routine. On sprints, I got up to page 144 in A Curse for True Love. And I don't want to say anything because I am screaming, crying, giggling, kicking my feet, but also my heart hurts so much for everything that's going on. I am so in love and it really just made me realize how much I missed Stephanie Garber. Like, I can't wait for her to announce her next series. I hope she does another trilogy. I think that something is being like set up in this book with characters that we haven't really got to explore yet. So I'm very hopeful. And no spoilers, but the one thing that I will absolutely freaking scream about with you guys is that we get a Jack's POV, like chapters in this book. And I think that she mentioned that, like she announced it before this book came out that there was gonna be Jack's POVs in it. I forgot for some reason, and when I came to the chapter that said Jax at the top, I was like, but I wanted to open, I think it's book mail. I have no idea what this is. I had 2 packages from Amazon and I don't believe that I ordered anything. So I think that this is book mail and I wanted to open it with y'all. No way! Oh my gosh. Bailey, thank you so much. Congrats on your 4K. Here's a little something for you to celebrate. Hope you love them. I absolutely love them. Thank you so much. Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. Y'all know I've been loving Trisha this year. Ooh, and it's about killing a god. This might pair really well in December with God Killer by Hannah Kaner. I'm just saying. And a Dawn of Onyx. Oh my gosh. I was just thinking about how I really wanted to order this because I want to read it soon because everyone's been reading it and screaming about it. Also, it is a very floppy. Both of these are, this one's less floppy. This one's really floppy, but thank you so much, Bailey. That's so sweet. And now let's do number 2. Oh my gosh, Bailey. She sent me 3 books. She also sent The Burning Sky by Sherry Thomas. I'm so excited. I've had this on my want to read list for a really long time. Yeah, it was published in 2013, but it sounds so good. It has to do with like lightning magic, and I love elemental magic. Iolanthe Seaborn is the greatest elemental mage of her generation, or so she's been told. It is her duty and destiny to face and defeat the Bane, the most powerful tyrant and mage the world has ever known. This would be a suicide task for anyone, let alone a reluctant 16-year-old girl with no training. Guided by his mother's visions and committed to avenging his family, Prince Titus has sworn to protect Iolanthe, even as he prepares her for the battle with the Bane, but he makes the terrifying mistake of falling in love with the girl who should have only been a means to an end. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Thank you, thank you. Monday. This is definitely not a 24-hour readathon vlog anymore. It's definitely a weekend reading vlog that's spilling into Monday. However, I only have a little over 100 pages left of Curse for True Love, and it is my goal to give y'all like final thoughts about the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I am in a chokehold from this book. Pages 112 and 113, I was literally on the floor. I need Disneyland, I need Disney World, I need like some type of new amusement park to create the Magnificent North so that I can go and experience Marywood Village, Marywood Inn, all of the food that's talked about in these books. Like, I just need to experience this world because it is so magical and beautiful and I love it so stinking much. This has become one of my favorite series of all time. I mean, it used to be the Caraval series, and the Caraval series still has a very special place in my heart. But it's so funny because I remember reading Once Upon a Broken Heart, the first book, and I was like, no, I don't like this as much as Carval. I don't like Evangeline as a main character as much as I liked Donatella and Scarlet, and now I am like completely changing my tune. I kind of changed my tune with Ballad of Never After. Like once I read that book, I was like, oh yes, the character development. Like Evangeline is definitely a damsel in distress. Like that is her archetype as a character. But I just love her so much, and her and Jax, I literally scream, cry, throw up about them. They are a pairing that will live in my mind rent-free, just like Jude and Carden does. Perfect dark, twisty, sad boy, and I just want him to be loved. Oh my gosh, he breaks my heart again and again and again. So the goal is to finish that book today. I really haven't listened to anything more of The Call of the Void. I might listen to that audiobook a little bit while I'm walking JMO, but I am about a third of the way through and I haven't made any more progress since I made my blanket. I'll try to do like some finishing thoughts there, but my priority is Curse for True Love. I only have like 30 pages left and I'm so stressed. I don't even know what to say about this book. The fact that I'm like really embarrassed that I was kicking my feet, screaming, crying, throwing up, smiling to myself, laughing, crying, sobbing, like all of these things to myself in my room because of pieces of paper. But like the way that this book made me feel, this is easily like one of my favorite trilogies series of all time. I loved it so much. I'm gonna think about Evangeline and Jax like I think about Jude and Carden, which is almost every day and all the time. Also, my friend Katie is gonna send me, I guess there's like alternate epilogues depending on which edition of these books that you get, which I low-key hate so much because it's like, give everyone the same story and don't make people feel like left out. I'm not gonna do like a spoil section because I don't think it's necessary, because all I'm gonna say is how much like I love these books. The only thing is the apples.